guys, it's Trish and I'm back with day 6 for my holiday series. And today I have another card for you guys that I'm using in the online card class. This one was all about creating a one layered card, and so I just about accomplished that. I have one additional sheet on there, but you'll see that in a minute. So the first thing I did was I stamped this tree from the Home for the Holidays from Simon Says stamp, and I stamped that on the Inkadinkado mask paper and I trimmed it out, and then I also cut out the hills from my go-to Borders #1 from Paper Smooches, also in the masking paper that I'll be using here in a minute. So I've created a border around my card base with some washi tape and post-it tape, and then I've stamped the tree with some Memento Tuxedo black ink because I will be coloring it with Copics, and then I applied the mask over top of it, and I am stamping the sled underneath of it so that it appears that the sled is carrying the tree. And then I'm going to go ahead and put down my masking paper that makes it look like a snowbank. My biggest lesson learned on this card is make sure you know exactly where you're putting it down before you attach it and then reapply it, because the ink was still slightly wet. I put down the masking paper, I lifted it up and shifted it, and so you'll see here later on, and I'll point it out because I was so upset about it, that the front of the sled actually transferred over. It's not as dark, and someone else might not notice it like I did, but I was so bummed out about it. But anyways, just a word of advice on a lesson learned on this card. So then I'm taking Tim Holtz Broken China. This seems to be my go-to light blue sky color lately, and I really like it. So I'm just using the blending tool, and I'm creating a lot of color. I'm building up a lot of color towards the bottom where the hillside is because I really want that to be prominent, and then I'm kind of fading it out towards the top, and I don't want it to be too light where you can't see it, because when I peel off the washi tape I want you to be able to see that crisp white border. And so here I'm lifting off the snowbank, and there I just rub it. I'm thinking that I can magically rub it off, and I'm like, I'm gonna let it go. I have to just let it go. Because I can't chuck it. I mean, the card idea I loved, and it turned out great other than that one little hiccup, so I just couldn't chuck it. So then I'm peeling off the masking paper that's covering my tree, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed with coloring in my tree with some Copics. And I'm just using a very small amount of Copics. I'm using E50C, and then I'm pointing it out again. You can see it there. It's very slight, but I was just so bummed out. I'm using E55 as this light brown color first, and then I'm going in with E39 and creating a little bit of shading. Again, not super worried about it. It's such a small piece of the card that I'm not worried about creating super shading and whatnot. And then I'm just coloring in the trunk with E39. And then I really wanted to focus in on the tree. So I am using 3 colors, and I really like this color combination a lot. I'm using YG63, YG67, and then I'm making a big jump to YG99, but I do like how these colors really work together. I'm laying down just a wash of color of the YG63. I'm not being super careful about it. I'm trying to stay within the lines, but I'm not worried about how exactly I'm coloring that in, because I am going to be going over it couple times. So I'm putting down a wash of this, and then I'm going in with the YG67, and I'm just going, you'll see here, I kind of start at the top, and then I start underneath that first layer and bring it down a little bit, and then I go underneath the next layer and bring it down, because I want that shading just like it would be on a tree. It'd be a little bit darker towards the center of the tree underneath the layer above, and then it'll lighten out towards the edges. So I do this with the YG67, I'm so sorry, and then I go ahead and I intensify it quite a bit with the YG99. Now I was coloring it kind of weird because I didn't want my hand to get in the way of the video camera, and it was just driving me crazy. So I just you'll see me reposition here in a minute or so again, just so I can really color it in, you know, never be afraid to rotate the paper is what I should say. You shouldn't have to be stuck down. Feel free to rotate the paper so that you're more comfortable and you get that, exact look that you're going for. So here I am going in with the YG99, and I'm creating a little bit more shading underneath each layer and adding just a little bit of kind of just brush strokes. It doesn't have to be perfect. No tree is alike. No tree is perfect. And so I'm just creating brush strokes to give it a little bit more texture. And then once I do that, I'll go back in with a YG67, and then I'll apply an all-over wash of color with the YG63. And I really like this combo because it's not such a bright green. It's more of I think of a rustic kind of, green shading. And I really like it. I learned this color combo while I was taking the online card class with the Copics for card makers, and I just really love this color combination. So once I finished doing that, I realized two things. Number one, once I peel off the washi tape around everything, that white at the bottom is going to get really lost. So I need to go in with a different color, and I didn't want to do anything super dark. I wanted something pretty light. And I noticed that right above the tree where I'm trying to focus on, there was this like white line that I didn't line up my mask perfectly, and so I'm going back in with it, hoping that I cover it up. And I still have a little bit of white, but it's nowhere near as much as my first initial run through. So I just intensify that a little bit, and I kind of clean it up a little bit more. And there's still a little bit of white, but nowhere near as much as before, so I'm happy with that. And then I start to lift it up, and I go, oh my god, there's going to be like no bottom to my card because I have snow. And so I decide that I'm going to go in with the Simon Says Stamp Fog Dye Ink. And I like this because it is not too dark, it's not too bright, it's a nice light shade of gray. And I'm going to go in with a clean mini ink blending tool, and I'm just going to apply that very lightly on the bottom of my card. I'm not really focusing too much towards the top of the hillside because I want that to be white. I just want to create that separation between the border of my card and the actual scene portion of my card. So I go in and I blend this in with the fog. Now, another note of advice, and I give this because I learned the lesson the hard way while creating this card. Be careful what kind of washi tape you use when you're doing this technique. I should have used Post-it tape all around, and you'll see there at the bottom corner I've got some blue, which is just the ink pulling up some of the ink on my washi tape. No big deal for me here, but just be cautious of that. Had I had enough Post-it tape, I would have used it all around because I know how Post-it tape works and I'm familiar with it. This was a lesson learned while using washi tape, but you create and you learn. So there you'll see I have just the slightest bit of gray, and it creates that separation so you see, that scene is totally framed out. So once I finish that, I go ahead and zoom out for you guys, and I decide I want a sentiment. Now I'm using the sentiment from, where is it? The stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Holiday Hellos. And I was thinking about stamping it in black ink, but I really wanted it to pop. So here's my one little cheat where I have one layer on my technically one layer card. So I'm heat embossing this. I'm using the EK Success powder tool first, and then I'm using the Merry Christmas. I'm stamping that with some VersaFine ink and using my Ranger super fine detailed white embossing powder and heat setting that. And then once I've heat set that, I'm going to trim it down and I'm going to create a flag end on one side. And you'll see that here in a moment. And so that's my one little cheat on this card. It is otherwise one layer, so I was pretty happy with myself. I created a scene and it was one layer, and this card was totally inspired by the tutorial taught by Laura Basson, where she just wowed me, like blew my socks off with the card she created. So then I go crazy with the zoom again. I'm so sorry. And I'm using the Crystal Stickles, and I'm just dabbing it on. I was thinking about coating the whole thing, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to do little dabs on the snow. And then I'm going to put a little bit at the bottom of each section of the tree to create that same snowy look and feel. And that completes the card. There is one point where I think I'm totally done, and I should have stopped, but I have trouble just stopping ahead of time, and it happens all the time. Oh yeah, and I forgot that I needed to color in the little bottom of the sleds with some gray. And so here I think I'm done, and I thought, oh no, let me add a dash line with a super fine black pen. Hindsight, I wish I had just stopped when I was ahead, but it didn't look bad, and it really frames out that scene. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this card. I'll be back soon with some more cards for the holiday series, and check out the description box down below for a list of supplies. See you next time.